there life after COP? Well, I was going to answer that question with our We Don't Have Time perspective, because we do indeed have a very special announcement here. Those of you that have been following We Don't Have Time for a while know that we always go to Davos. We go to Davos to push for, more climate action. We push for science, for climate solutions, and for the green transition also, of course. And it's now time for us to announce this year's partnership for our participation in Davos. So we're very happy to announce that we will be partnering with the Swiss nonprofit GreenUp and the Climate Hub Davos. So it's my pleasure now to welcome on Zoom. We have representatives from these two organizations here with us, waiting in Zoom. Michaela Reimann, you are president of the board at GreenUp. Wonderful to have you here. And Nicole Keller, managing director from GreenUp. So how are you today? Can you hear me?
Very well, thank you.
Excellent.
Great, yes.
Thank you. And also in our Stockholm studio, we have David Olsson joining us. And David is the CEO of We Don't Have Time. So, Michaela, could you please tell us and the viewers, what is the Climate Hub Davos?
Yes. First, let me express I'm really happy about this collaboration because we share the same values and goals. We both want to shed a spotlight on experts and scientists, and we want to co-create solutions for a greener future. And that's why we're really thrilled at GreenUp that We Don't Have Time will bring this Climate Hub Davos content on a global stage. So coming to the Climate Hub Davos, it's an open and inclusive space. During the annual meeting of the World Economic Forum in Davos, it's a place where change makers gather, come together to share their solutions and to collaborate, and also to inspire action towards regeneration. And you mentioned it at the beginning, GreenUp is the initiator behind the Climate Hub Davos. GreenUp is an NGO that is for more than 10 years already empowering people, communities, and organizations to live sustainably and to work sustainably and to use resources wisely in a way that humans and then also nature can thrive together.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much, Michaela. I was there last year in Davos and I hung out a lot at the Climate Hub, but it was truly inspiring. So we're very excited to be partnering with you this year. So David, over to you in Stockholm. Could you share the visions and the whys of why We Don't Have Time is partnering up with GreenUp and the Climate Hub?
Yes, certainly, Katarina. And on my side, on my end, I want to express a heartfelt thank you for GreenUp to this collaboration because it's a truly inclusive and interesting space in central Davos that you have built that we now will be a part of come January. And it's really good for democratic dialogue and for those meetings that are not exclusive in the accredited part of Davos for the general public, the visitors to the city. And we're going to Davos basically because, we live in a globalized world and Davos is a focal point for those discussions where you can discuss those pressing matters that countries need to collaborate to solve. Be it elitist or not, that's the reality of the world. You need those arenas to have those discussions. And GreenUp and we are working to open up new spaces for democratic dialogue where we can discuss these matters. And, the global conversation on how to steer our future needs to be fact-based. It needs to be based in science. It needs to be respectful to science. And there is practically no other issue where this is more important than the climate issue, I would say, and the pressing environmental matters. So we're going there to make science great again, and speak science to power.
Thank you very much indeed, David. It is indeed important, especially maybe in Davos, to be present and to open up the dialogue and democratize the climate solutions access. So it's really, really inspiring, this what's happening now. So Nicole, over to you. When it comes to GreenUp, why is it important for you to be present in Davos?
Well, it's very interesting that you asked that question because I actually live in Davos, and
I know
GreenUp
you
has
do,
been
actually.
active there.
You told me this winter.
I know. So it's kind of because of that I've experienced how it is here, right? In that week, really the transformation of the city that takes place, both as a citizen as well as a director of GreenUp. And I just felt we can play a role here. Beyond the local projects that we do here year round, I really started to work on circular solutions first, like how can we reduce waste? How can we really make sure that any excess resources go back to the local community? So that's the Green Share project that we started 6 years ago. And from that, actually, there was more and more dialogue with the World Economic Forum, with the city of Davos. And also then we felt, hey, there is kind of more need for voices and open spaces for nature and climate solutions. So that is really, why the Climate Hub Davos came into being 3 years ago. And I really agree with what you both said. It's just really important to have this open space where we can also invite leaders, and but also there is a space for activists, to talk together and to see, okay, how can we solve this together? Because I think that is really important, that we listen to each other.
Thank you, Nicole. So over to David again. Why is GreenUp a good partner in this game?
Well, from working with GreenUp last year and meeting them throughout this year, I can really tell that the commitment to the issue and how genuine the organization and the people who work there feel, it's absolutely amazing. You really are value aligned with us. We stand shoulder to shoulder in this fight together. I see that you want to work for regenerative solutions, for circular solutions. It's not just something, a label that you put on you. It's something that you really, really believe in, as do we. Together, we want to shift away from the fossil economy, phase down fossils in the world through radical solutions and radical innovation, and fast. We believe that together, and we believe in the science narrative together. So, I mean, I was there last year. You put scientists and science front and center of what you did. And the climate solutions front and center of what you did. So it's just a pleasure to be working alongside people like that. So I mean, it's a match made in heaven.
Thank you, David.
It is indeed. So to both of you, either one of you can choose to answer. Actually, it's how can the viewers support and take place in this? What's happening at the Climate Hub? Nicole, would you like to take that?
Yeah, I'm happy to answer that. So we have live streaming. So we have many different sessions taking place with all these partners that Michaela mentioned. They're all very diverse, but they will all be live streamed on our YouTube channel, GreenUp with Us. And of course, we have a lot of super cool media people around who will catch interviews and who will really kind of raise this voice. So of course, also follow We Don't Have Time with all the broadcasts and episodes that there will be. And the same for, I think, our different channels, the LinkedIn channel, I think, would be the most important one to follow and to catch a view of what's happening. And maybe overall, we're super happy to work with partners. It's a bit like you, I feel, that we're all always looking for this co-creation, collaboration, lift each other up. So please, if anybody listening now thinks, okay, I really, want to join them in raising that voice, please partner up with us for this year, for next year's, and many years to come.
Thank you, Nicole. So over to you, Michaela. What can we expect from the content of Climate Hub 2026?
Well, maybe first, for those who haven't been at the Climate Hub yet, format-wise, or what we do is we really don't just talk. We really want to make change happen, and we don't only host panels, but we really create this experience also when having scientists around us, but really make people understand and feel what those scientists have to offer to us. And in 2025, we had about 2,000 participants on site, and we have had thousands online. And we created that with about 50 partners or partner organization. Nicole mentioned it. We are open for new partnerships, of course. And we had about 100 concrete pledges for nature and climate. And now for 2026, the bar is high, and we obviously want to create even more impact and to strengthen those relationships. And thematically, we will focus on 3 topics. So first of all, it's regenerative business. David mentioned that before, regenerative business models with a focus on food. The second one is transformative finance, because without finance, we won't make this change happen. And the third topic is leadership and new mindset, or a mindset shift. And that's basically what you can expect.
Well, that sounds absolutely thrilling. I really hope I'll be able to come and join you.
I hope so too.
So, David, any final thoughts?
Yeah, can I just add that we are integrating GreenUp Davos Climate Hub content on the We Don't Have Time Davos Hub. So one way to watch what's going on in the Climate Hub is to subscribe to We Don't Have Time's broadcasts and join that way. So that's one of the way we're partnering. And then obviously very excited to have a more firm base in at the GreenUp at the Climate Hub, because it's a wonderful location and a lot of buzz that goes on there. So really excited about this, and I think we it's going to be a very interesting Davos, as this is a very interesting COP, because I think the time, it's really running out, and it's a time for action, commitment, and just getting boots on the ground and doing stuff.
Well, it is indeed crunch time. So we're happy to be able to announce this partnership here today at COP30. And all of you watching, you can, of course, follow the Climate Hub content, as David mentioned, on the We Don't Have Time platform. And thank you so much, Nicole, and thank you, Michaela, for making this possible and for joining us here on the live broadcast from COP30 in Belém, Brazil. And until we meet again, happy preparations, because I know you're on them already, on the ball, of course. It's soon, very soon. So best of luck with your prep work, and hope to see you soon. Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you, David,
Thank you so much
for making this possible also, of course. Thank you. And now we will be looking at a video for a bit, because we are waiting for the next guest. They are running a little bit late. It's Long corridors here at COP30 in Berlin. It's very hot too. In some spots it's very hot and in some spots it's very windy. As you can tell here, the wind is blowing from a very loud air conditioner, but we're doing our best to make everything work anyways. So let's watch the video and then we'll get back and talk to three Brazilian women that are active in the Our Kids Climate community.
So let's imagine you're a government minister of an imaginary country and your brief is to ensure energy security for every one of your citizens while also reducing greenhouse gas emissions as quickly and effectively as possible. It's a tricky one because you get lots of your energy by burning carbon-based fuels that release massive quantities of those gases into the atmosphere. You get some good news when you meet with a group of delegates from a completely new energy generation industry who explain that their technologies don't emit any greenhouse gases at all during their operational lifetime. You think that's an absolutely splendid solution and send them off to get cracking. But then you meet with another group of delegates from the existing carbon-based energy generation industry and they tell you that those newfangled technologies are intermittent and you can't rely on them all the time. So where's your energy security now, eh? And anyway, they say, you'd have to build out massive amounts of expensive infrastructure to accommodate the new stuff. Plus you'd have to add lots of other complicated new technology onto your electricity grid to coordinate it all. Luckily for you, though, they explain, they've got a much better solution. They will simply bolt giant vacuum cleaners onto the smokestacks of all their power stations and factories to suck up all their greenhouse gases and store them all neatly away somewhere so they never get into the atmosphere in the first place. You think this is also an absolutely splendid solution until you start reading through the small print. Hello and welcome to Just Have a Think. Now, if you found that introduction a bit simplistic and patronising, then it achieved its objective, because that is roughly how simplistic and patronising the fossil fuel lobbyists are being when they talk to lawmakers and the public. On the face of it, it really is as simple as I outlined in the introduction, as long as you don't ask too many searching questions about the detail. So let's ask some searching questions about the detail, starting with the size of the challenge. According to the United Nations' most recent GAP report, human activity in 2023 resulted in the release of just over 57 billion metric tons of CO2 equivalent gases into the atmosphere. That's an increase of 1.3% on the previous year. And for those not acquainted with the jargon of these sorts of reports, the term CO2 equivalent is just a convenient way of lumping all greenhouse gases into one single metric using what are known as global warming potential or GWP values of each greenhouse gas. Those GWP values are set out in the Greenhouse Gas Protocol issued by the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change or IPCC. Carbon dioxide is ascribed a value of 1 and every other gas has an equivalent value based on how much more effective it is at warming the atmosphere. Then some clever boffins with posh calculators multiply all those values by the actual quantity of each gas released, and that gets us to the overall CO2 equivalent number quoted by the UN. Some of that total comes from things like methane and nitrous oxide emissions from agriculture and land use change, and also methane from our waste management systems. To assess carbon capture and storage, it's more useful to look at global energy-related CO2 emissions, which according to the International Energy Agency reached 37.4 billion metric tons in 2023, so 37.4 thousand million metric tons. The middle-of-the-road emissions projection that can be found in the latest IPCC report shows that limiting global warming to only 1.5 degrees Celsius above pre-industrial levels would require us humans to capture and permanently store 8.7 billion tonnes of CO2 every single year. The Global CCS Institute tells us that as of November 2023, there were a total of 41 CCS projects operating globally with a combined carbon dioxide capture rate of approximately 49 million tonnes per year, which is just a little over 0.5% of that IPCC requirement. The CCS Institute did point out, though, that there were another 361 million tonnes worth of projects in the pipeline. So how's that going? Well, according to the International Energy Agency, as of Q1 2025, just over 50 million tonnes of CO2 capture and storage was in place, reflecting what they call a modest year-over-year increase from 2023. So at an uplift rate of 1 million tonnes a year, we just need to be a little patient for about 8,500 years or so while the industry ramps up to full carbon capture capacity. Cheap shot, I know, but you get the idea. And to be honest, I don't really need to resort to such base sarcasm because all the other data we're about to look at kind of tell their own story. First of all, why is there such slow progress on something that the fossil fuel industry had apparently identified as the perfect solution to allow them to continue business as usual while keeping the lawmakers happy? Well, for the purposes of this video, we will ignore the scurrilous suggestion that fossil fuel companies have allegedly grown used to doing pretty much whatever the hell they like, as long as they buy the compliance and silence of the relevant policymakers with high enough compensation fees. You may say that. I couldn't possibly comment. Instead, let's focus on the economics of carbon capture and storage. At first glance, CCS looks deceptively straightforward. As I outlined right at the start of the video, essentially you bolt some capture equipment onto the side of a smokestack, pipe the carbon dioxide into a compressor, and bury it in the ground. But the real world costs are anything but simple. The IEA estimates that even capturing highly concentrated CO2 streams, like those from ethanol or ammonia production, costs about $15 to $25 per tonne. But capturing CO2 from much more dilute flue gases, like those coming out of a power station, is far more costly, typically between $40 and $120 per tonne. And those figures don't include the energy penalty. In other words, the extra fuel needed just to run the capture system. Retrofitting a coal-fired power plant with CCS can increase fuel use by between 14 and 40%, while gas plants take an 11 to 22% hit. So even before you start thinking about pipelines and monitoring or liability for leaks, the economics look grim. That's why historically CCS has piggybacked on something else, enhanced oil recovery or EOR. By pumping captured CO2 into depleted oil wells, companies can squeeze out additional barrels of crude that would otherwise stay underground. That extra oil generates revenue, effectively subsidising the high cost of capture, and in the USA also generates a tax incentive under the so-called 45Q rules designed to reward the sequestration of carbon dioxide. According to the Institute for Energy Economics and Financial Analysis, more than 70% of all CCS projects worldwide rely on EOR, and between 80 and 90% of all CO2 ever captured has ended up being used to extract oil from depleted seams. So what we get is a sort of perverse climate paradox. Technically, CO2 is being captured and injected underground, which means US operators can pick up their $60 to $80 per tonne, thank you very much. But that CO2 is being used to produce more fossil fuel, which of course gets burnt and releases yet more CO2. The net benefit to the climate can be very small, or in some cases even negative, depending on how much extra oil is produced and burned. I've covered this grotesque insanity several times before on the channel, but each time we come back to it, it still does my head in. No wonder critics say CCS looks less like a serious climate solution and more like a subsidy machine. The current UK government has been warned it could be on the hook for as much as £6 billion in guarantees if its Teesside CCS project fails to deliver. Even the industry's own track record is shaky. Chevron's Gorgon LNG project in Australia, touted as the largest dedicated CCS facility in the world, has repeatedly missed its targets and faced regulatory action for underperforming. And most recently, Norway's state energy provider, Equinor, has been forced to retract claims that its Sleipner facility had been capturing about 1 million tonnes of CO2 annually, when official figures showed the real number to be closer to 100,000 tonnes. So when you put all of that together, the slow progress of CCS becomes much less of a surprise. The economics don't work without subsidies or oil revenue, the climate benefits are undermined by EOR, the scale is tiny compared to global emissions, and the track record is littered with underperformance. But it's this very latest research, published in the highly respected journal Nature in early September, that is perhaps the most damning of all. Rather than the 5 to 6 degrees Celsius of avoided warming that the fossil fuel industry claims to be achievable with the various CCS technologies, the researchers on this paper found that the realistically available range is between 0.35 and 1.2 degrees Celsius, and that's assuming all CO2 captured will be permanently sequestered and not used for enhanced oil recovery, which, as we've seen, is in itself a highly unlikely scenario. The research finds that there just aren't as many genuinely usable storage pockets in Earth's geological makeup as had been previously touted. Historical scientific literature estimated between 10 and 40,000 billion tonnes worth of storage capacity, mostly in sedimentary rock formations. The fossil fuel industry typically claims there to be around 14,000 gigatons, of which the paper explains 13,400 gigatons worth is currently undiscovered, and only 253 million tonnes worth is economically viable. This latest research establishes a so-called prudent planetary limit of only around 1,460 billion tonnes worth, again assuming all the CO2 is genuinely permanently captured without displacing and liberating other fossil fuels. The strong conclusion of the paper is that only stringent near-term gross emissions reductions can lower the risk of breaching this limit before the year 2200, which of course is a date that is far too far into the future for us humans to give a damn about, isn't it? And almost certainly too far away to represent a problematic wrinkle for our dear politicians. CCS has always been politically attractive, of course, because on paper it looks like the ideal compromise. Fossil fuel companies get to keep drilling, mining and selling their products. Governments get to tell their voters they're tackling climate change, and everyone hopes the costs will come down with scale. But both the IEA and the IPCC stress that CCS is not needed everywhere. In fact, in power generation and most of the energy system, renewables, efficiency and electrification are already cheaper and more effective. For cement or ammonia plants, and maybe for steel production, all of which have hard to abate emissions, CCS will quite likely play an important role further down the line. But they are not the major contributors to overall global emissions. So let's worry about them once we've solved the biggest problems, and let's not get seduced into using CCS as a catch-all solution to enable fossil fuels to continue business as usual, because the evidence suggests it's more of a lifeline for oil and gas producers than a lifeline for the climate. And I know I sound like a broken record on this one, but maybe we could just focus all available resources instead on accelerating the already exponential rollout of solar panels, wind turbines, energy storage and other renewable technologies, so that we can actually stop the combustion of fossil fuels in the first place.